Adam Finkel.
Okay, I've got 2 in a row. I had 3, but golly gee, I forgot the third one. It's a joke. So these are both about not command and control regulation, which I'm a big fan of and what I did at OSHA for 10 years, but in favor of more information disclosure to let people make informed choices. It's a big fetish these days, but it's got some validity to it. The head of the OMB's regulatory office is very big on letting people know the truth and make their own decisions. So the first of the 2 has to do with dishonesties in the food labeling. Trans fats and sat fats are among the riskiest components of processed foods, and there are 2 loopholes in the FDA nutrition labels. I'm going to concentrate on the first one, that the manufacturer is allowed to set the serving size with unlimited discretion and then can round down the amount of anything in the food to 0 if each serving, in quotes, contains less than a half a gram of that constituent. So, for example, I'll show you a slide in a minute about what this looks like. A jar of Coffee Mate that can have over 100 grams in the big container of trans fat can be labeled as fat-free because it's divided into hundreds of tiny servings that have less than a half a gram in it. The other loophole, which could be fixed at the same time, is that there's a conflation of the trans fat and the saturated fat. You can advertise something as trans fat-free, which is not untrue, but if it's prominent enough, it makes people think it may also be saturated fat-free. Next one, please. This is my 11-year-old daughter hand modeling here. That's what 1 serving of Coffee Mate looks like on the left. 1 teaspoon. Does anybody, maybe people like coffee looking like that, but I like it looking like the one on the right, which is 1 teaspoon plus 2 tablespoons, 7 servings of Coffee Mate. Next one, please. This is the label on the fat-free variety, and if you read it carefully, you see that partially hydrogenated coconut and or palm kernel oil is the second ingredient. So Michael Jacobson's group tested it, 1/4 of a gram of saturated fat in this fat-free, and the so-called light product has, of course, even more. Next one, please. So there are a number of ways FDA could amend its regulations. They could, instead of doing it per serving and making people basically multiply to figure out how much is in the package, they could do it per package, and people would have to think about, well, how long or how many times do I shake the container until I finish the package? But it would be sort of like 100 grams per week or per month rather than this artificial, farcical amount of serving. They could lower the rounding down threshold as has been done in Canada. They could require some actual surveys of what a serving size really is, or we could simply do command and control and phase out these deliberately added partially hydrogenated oils. Next one, please. There's a lot of evidence, no please, thank you, about the science on trans fats and saturated fats. Unfortunately, it's a kind of a chicken and egg. We don't really know how large the impact of these misleading labels are because I don't think the work has been done to figure out really how many people. Essentially, this is a problem of misleading information being worse than none at all because you're lulled into a sense from this label that you're eating fat-free or light food. And do people even shake more Coffee Mate powder? And there are hundreds of other foods that are like this. So we don't really know the total population impact, but first principles would say it's large because these are ubiquitous in the food supply. And then the last slide, please. I think this is a fairly easy one. The fault lines are typical, but I just think the philosophical case for not misleading people is so compelling at this point that it's sort of an inevitable thing, and will it happen in 2 or 3 years or 20 or 30 years? I'd much rather see it happen sooner. Thank you.